Now, another use left in that brush. Just the polish I used, the Ferrecla. There we go. Now I thin it down. Bit of water. Been doing it this way since 1985, so a reasonable amount of time. Been doing it that way for a long time. Now just add a bit of polish. We do the rail first. Paint it on the rail like this. And yes, I had the air conditioner on. Definitely air conditioner weather. Now, you always polish your rail first. Some people do it all different. I've seen people do it where they just roll the sand around. But the reason you do it this way is because you want to be able to see that the rail's perfect. It's all right to polish the rail while it's laying flat and going like that, but you can't see if there's a run, if there's anything that needs to be fixed up. Whereas this way, I can see this is perfect, okay? Because it's the only view you can see it when you put it in this position, okay? Now I'll show you what I mean. I'll just do this rail here. Sorry, I've got to point that up a bit, or it's going in my eyes. Now watch this. When I look here, I can see that's pretty bloody nice, okay? And I go along here, and this is the part where you have no buff-throughs. All that time I spent hand rubbing it, you don't want any buff-throughs. Okay, so you take your time, get it right. Righto, so that rail, top half of the rail's done. Now do the bottom half of the rail. Same thing again. If you want this to be all shiny, no marks, no rub throughs, nothing wrong with it, okay? And I'll just do this front bit and I'll show you. There we go. Now look at that. Perfect, okay? So what happens along this part of the rail here, you normally get a lot of lumps and a lot of stuff if you haven't wet and dried it properly, okay? And it looks shit out. Those boards I was telling you that a guy imported, and he used to get me to fix up some of the stuff on it, yeah, very dodgy. It shouldn't have been like that. But the guy that polished it didn't have his name on the board, so he didn't care. He got his money for polishing it, but he did a shit job. The guy that bought the board and then imported it here, he paid the right money. He just didn't see that railhouse perfect. He just didn't get the right job for his money. So if you look here, the rail is beautiful. So see that? Just like glass. the reason I do it this way, it's the way I originally was shown, but you want the rail to be perfect. You don't want any imperfection. This is why everyone does sanded finish boards. Not because they go better or anything like that, because most of the people can't polish. And it's one of the first jobs you see. That's how it's like glass. See that? It's just like glass all the way around. No buff through, no weave. Here. Yeah, and the main reason why they do it, sanded finish, is because they can't do this stage. They've skipped that part on the... Because what happened with surfboards back in the sort of mid-80s, they come up with this stuff called Pro, because it was hard making money then, and they thought instead of paying a polisher, they'd make sanded finish boards seem real cool, and polishers ran out of work. That's why we had a big exodus of qualified polishers out of our industry then, and most of the polishers used to do finish coats as well, and pin lines. It was normally something you learnt together, so we had a massive exodus of qualified workers in the 80s, and then they only had sanded finish boards. Getting it nice and shiny. There we go. Now, polish the deck side. Once I do this, then I start polishing the bottom and then the top. There we go, let's have a look what it looks like. See that? Beautiful. Nice and shiny. I mean, you can polish any way you want, as long as it's, you know, cost effective and the polish job comes up all right. There we go. Have a look at that. Beautiful. Like glass. Now I'll just finish off the middle of the rail. Whoop. Gotta get my sander back. Making sure the middle of the rail's perfect. And see there, no buff throughs. Just so you tell a good polish job or not. I'll give you a tip. You go and have a look on your rail. Okay, you wipe your rail so it's shiny like that. Okay, now I don't know if you can see it with the camera, hopefully you can, but where the finish coat joins the top and bottom, there should never, ever be weave. Okay, never. I'll rub this. See, no weave. Never ever should you see weave there. That's called a buff through. That's like the worst thing you can do. That's like worse than having it flip off the stand, because when I used to work at a place, if you got a buff through, the board used to have to go in and be re-sanded again and refinish coated and started from scratch. That's how serious it was. Now, I've seen some shit polish jobs. Now because I've done the rails, when I do the bottom and go towards the rail, I end up with a nice finish. Now I'll just go over this. And what we should end up with is nice and shiny. There we go. So look at that. Don't worry about the smudge mark from the pad, but see, no buff throughs, nothing. See if I rub that there. See there? See how it's perfect? A little bit, I might give it a little bit more here. On the back. This is the part that has to be spot on, because everyone picks up the board and looks at the tail. Okay, so this area here. So I'm making sure there's no spots there. Is there a little bit here? I'm just trying to determine whether there's a tiny little, there you go, see that tiny little spot right here? All I have to do is just a touch of polish and I'll just give it a light go over. See this, watch this. There we go. Now let's see if I got that right. I'll just rub that. There, now look at that spot there. See how it's gone, it's perfect. Right, next one. Now because I spent the time cutting it back, it's polishing up easy. Now just blow out my pad. Make sure the Lambswool's clean and see how it brings it up a bit better. I'm just trying to make sure this is all spot on. So just go over that. There we go. So now I'm just looking for any irregularities or anything. No, that's perfect, okay? Now move on to the next spot. There. It doesn't take much if you get the cutting back right. And that's the boring part. Now just blow my pad down. Just to clean it up a bit. I'm not putting any pressure on this, I'm just gliding along the top. Righto. Beautiful. See how that's spot on? There you go. Getting closer. I've got 3 more bits to go before the bottom's finished. Same again. Blow the pad out. That means the pad hasn't got any polish in there, and it buffs it up a bit better, like gets the old dirty stuff off. See that? Go over here. And go over that. There you go. Now look at this. Spot on. Now another spot. Slow and steady wins the race with polishing. One thing for sure, polishing, slower is faster. Now this is a full-on concave. This is pretty deep, so I've got quite a non-flat area here. Now, just checking this, got a tiny little spot here I need to touch more, just there, which I knew I had. It's always the spot when you've got the deep concave. So, bit of polish on there. There we go. Clean that up, spot on. Now, the last bit on the nose. Now remember, the bottom takes longer to polish than the top. That's why you do the hard part first. The deck, because it's rolled, it polishes up way quicker. Now I'm just checking this part. That looks bloody beautiful. Now, I'll wash it off. Now this polish won't come off when it's dry, it's really hard. But if you wet it and use a clean rag, it sort of gets most of it off, like this. Okay, now this is finished. In most manufacturers' books, this is now finished. Okay, you hose it off, wash it, clean it with a rag, and that's it. But I take it one step further where I use Mr. Sheen. Okay, so I don't stop where most manufacturers stop. I put a extra glaze on it, or whatever you want to call it, Mr. Sheen, and that just brings it up even better. Okay, so see how it's like glass now? I'm just getting those couple of bits of wax off, or whatever you want to call it, polish, silicone. So that's now just like glass. And for there's people out there that say you can't get a good finish using resin. It's the biggest bullshit. They're ones that like to use that fucking finish resin called Rycold. I've got no idea why that ever became popular. Every time I've used it, it's been shit. See that? See how it's like glass? No. Make your own finish resin. That's how everyone does it. Now, do the, whoopsies. Do the tail. Sorry, I've got a bit of shit on my fire extinguisher there. that down actually. Sometimes a bit of polish gets flicked on it. This is how I do it. Here's the brush. Perfectly clean. There we go. Sorry, I just looked a bit yucky. I'll give that a clean a bit better later. Yeah. Let's do this part. Now we start on the tail. Now this comes up really quick because it's a curved surface, okay? Curved surfaces polish up quicker, like the rail and like the deck. Most of the time, it only needs one pass. Let's move that up there. Only needs one pass and it normally comes up perfect. If you've cut it back right. If you haven't cut it back right, it can become a hassle. Now let's see how I've done. Give that a bit of a clean up rub. Righto, let's see how it looks. There you go. Fucking beautiful. Tiny little bit there, where it was a little upper, but it's a good example. See that tiny little upper right here? Okay, that's where I haven't overcut the board. All you do to get rid of that, and it's great for people learning board making. You get a little bit of 1200. Now, that's called an upper. See that little bit there? You should never have those. And you don't obviously have it when you see one, you get rid of it, but watch this. I just hit it with a bit of 1200. There we go. That's spot on. Then you whack a dab of polish on it. It takes all of a minute to fix. Okay, but I don't overcut the board at the start because that means you end up buffing through. Now watch this, that little upper, I'll show you what I did. And I'm glad I got that then because that's quite educational. See that, it used to be right there. See how it's gone? Okay, that's the way to do that part. Right, more polish. Righto, so what I do now, blow my pad down. There we go. Check that. Spot on. Lean over here. Check that. Just have a look. Beautiful. I know it's going to be right, so I don't really have to check it too much. go. Spot on. I don't even have to check that. I know it's going to be fine. 2 more bits to go. That looks good. I'll check it. Beautiful. Last bit on the nose. Now you notice how this did come up quicker than the tail, than the bottom. So that's why you always polish the bottom first. You want to finish easy. Don't polish the easy part on the deck first, because then you'll be doing the hard stuff on the bottom last. Do the hardest first. And the easiest last. There we go. Let's check that. That looks pretty bloody good. I knew it would, but it's fine because I did cut it back well. Right, now, this part, wipe down the turn that over. There we go. Right, so that's now what we call finished, polished. But as I say, I'm going to take it a bit further by doing the Mr. Sheen. But first off, I'm going to drill a plug out. Now, people ask, how do you do the plug when it's, whoopsies, sorry, bumped my drill. Oh, I bent my drill. No, I didn't. It's a sorry. Whoop. Done. It's my little 12 volt fell off the shelf. That happens. Now you drill this through here. Now you put a hole through there, 5mm. Then hang that up. Then you get your router, which has the little trimmer bit inside it. So I'll get that bit of plastic off. There's stuff on there. There we go. See that router bit? It's tapered, sticks through about 2.5mm, 3mm. Plug it in. Put that in the hole, like that. Sorry, right there. Turn her on. That's trimmed the hole. Then what you need to do is get a bit of sandpaper, because you don't want the glass to be the same with the fin going into it. Otherwise it could lift the capping off. So you give this a sand at about 40 degrees, 45 degrees, 30 degrees, whatever, just so you've sanded the edge of the glass that's on top of the box, all the way to the back, all the way to the front. You want it to be about 1/2 millimetre under, see? See how that's on a bit of an angle there, about just under a mil, or just under a 32. You sand that side. Otherwise, if you fit a fin really tight and you lift it up, it could lift the capping up because it will separate easy off the plastic to a point. Okay, so you just sand that there, sand that on an angle. And the other bit you've got to do here is the pin. This is crucial. When the pin goes in here, when you lift it out, if that's straight up, the pin can catch on the capping. So you've got to put your blade in about 20 degrees, scratch all the way around here. So you want that fiberglass to be, I'll show you, you know, 1 millimetre off the box. See there? And that'll stop it from the pin ever grabbing the capping. It's just a preventative thing so you never have a problem down the track. Okay, see how that's done like that? Then hose it out. Okay, you hose that out. Don't worry, I'm not finished yet. There we go. Hose that out. And then I drill through to the deck. I use the 5mm drill. Now this is all the way through to the box and around it, and it's probably about, that's a 5mm drill, probably just under 10mm. Okay, so when I put this in the middle, like I'm doing now, like this, I'm going to have an equal distance all the way. I'll just start it. Okay, so that's in the middle, perfect. So I'll just drill that through. All the way through the box. We've got a nice about 2.5mm of resin around it. Then you get your little countersink tool, and that just takes the edge off. See how I took the edge off that hole? You don't want it getting sharp and cutting your leg rope. Okay, so I hose that off again. Now I'm just getting rid of any particles of dirt or anything on it, because I'm going to Mr. Sheen it later, or maybe tomorrow morning. I'll let it drip dry. I'll let the stands clean themselves. Get the polish out of the stands. That's all you have to do. You don't have to go overboard with your sands. You hose that out. Give that a bit of a rub there. Now, I'll fix this up, so I've got to re-tape that down. This is moved. It's alright, I'll fix that up later. Now you hose out your box. There we go. Hose the board down. That's clean. Other thing you do is bumping the camera. When you get your apron off, always hose your apron down, so when you pick it up next time, it's perfectly clean. Okay, very crucial. That way you've got like a brand new apron every time. Do not leave it filthy. Hang it up in a hook, that'll be dry tomorrow. Now I'm going to speed this process up a bit. I'm going to blow it down with a bit of air. Get rid of the water. Now, the reason I do this and not with a towel is because if I put all that water into a towel, it's useless. You can't use it for polishing. So you blow all the water off. Okay? Blow all the water off like this. Okay? like the really good car washes they use there. See there? All the water. Now that's sped up the drying process. So I might come back in half hour and then Mr. Sheen this board, but at the moment that's fine. It's getting picked up on Saturday, but I'll just do this tomorrow morning and install the fin. But I may do it in half an hour's time, but probably in the morning. So I'll just turn this off and